The first word, it's what is called the emotional modifier. When we share information, and share it's not just exchange, it's not to communicate, it's when we share, when we agree. We share more easily emotions than logical demonstration. So our strongest messages are always based on emotions, based on feeling, than based on logic. Because this is something that a part of our brain will accept, will assimilate more easily than logical demonstration. This is why in the description of my project, the description of my company, I must bring one concept, that is the emotional modifier, that will vehicle the value at an emotion level that my project or my company want to develop or are supporting. The function of the emotional modifier, and if we refer to an innovation project, it's to describe the type of feelings that your innovation will provide. In other videos, we saw that you have an innovation only when you offer a solution to a real problem. And a real problem, it's a problem when there are some people who are happy because a solution exists. So, the first result of bringing this solution is not to solve the problem, but it's to make people happy. When you create a system, when you develop a solution to a problem and people use it and buy it, they buy it because there will be kind of transformation, maybe a small transformation, but a transformation in their life because of your innovation, because of your solution. Another famous quote is that people don't buy a quarter-inch drill, but they buy a quarter-inch hole. That means they will buy a drill not because they want to have a drill at home, because they want to create a hole in their wall. And why do they want to create a hole? It's because they want to hook a photo, a painting, some family memories, so something that will create some feelings because they can see the photo on their wall all day long. When you sell a drill, basically at the end of the day, they are getting a value, which is a feeling about something they can do, they can put on their wall, which they couldn't without your innovation, without your system. So in the emotional modifier of the brand mantra, you must find the word that will communicate this feeling about your project. Here are some examples of words that can be used as emotional modifiers in the brand mantra. Authentic, fun, cool, safe. You see that these words are strong, but also their emotion contained, the emotion meaning, it's very strong. People will join your project, will join your team because they share the same value of what you claim, which is working something which is authentic. Can be outfits, can be anything, but they want something that they can support because they share the same value, they share the same feeling as what you claim. Also, people can join you because safety is very important in their life, and they want to contribute to something that will bring more safety, whatever you call safety, in the life, in the life of the other people. So the emotional modifier, it's a word that will deal, of course, with the emotion, with the feeling, but with the feeling that you want to share with the people who can join your project. The second term of the brand mantra is a descriptive modifier. The descriptive modifier, of course, describes what you do, what you want to do, but it describes in a specific way. The function of the descriptive modifier is not only to describe what you do, because don't forget that the function of a brand mantra is to attract people who will share the same value, the same goal as you are. So the function of the descriptive modifier is to describe what makes you different. What is the difference regarding what you want to do, what you are doing, compared to the other companies and other projects who are working on the same topic. So the descriptive modifier must not really describe what you do, but must highlight what makes you different. Here are some examples of words that can be used in a descriptive modifier: athletic, international, sustainable, family. You see that they are more specific than a generic term. You could compare athletic with sport, but athletic refers mostly to people who do sport but like challenging themselves and coming with a way to go over the top of the hill and run faster and do things like that. So it's not only just doing sport, it's combining the sport with the need of performance, even if it's just for yourself. The same with family. Family are not just people. When you refer to the family, of course, you will refer to a group of people, but a specific group, and you see that this address a collection, for instance, of people who share some values. So the descriptive modifier you will create must actually highlight the difference of your project, of your team, of your company compared to the generic domain. If you create some solutions or provide some solutions to families, it's not providing these solutions to people. It's really to bring a solution to a given group of people, which is much more specific than the usual one. And the third term of your brand mantra is the brand function. The brand function clearly describes which domain you are working on. All along the creation of a brand function, you must be specific. You must be specific about the feeling, about the values that you want to share. You must be specific about what makes you different from the others. But also you must be specific about what domain you are working on. People shouldn't question what is your actual domain of activity, what is the actual domain of your project. The brand mantra should explain clearly and of course simply what is the domain of activity, the business domain you are involved in. So the brand function has one goal: it's to describe your activity. And the reason why is because in a world where there are so many messages, we are invaded by communication and messages from everywhere. When you want to transmit a message, communicate a message through your brand mantra, people have no time to try to figure out what you are doing actually, or which domain you are involved into. So that's why your brand function must be specific, must not be too vague, but must be extremely clear about the domain of activity you're involved, what you are working in. Here are some examples of brain functions: performance, entertainment, food, energy. You see that these words are broad enough to cover a domain, but they are specific enough to allow everyone to understand what domain you are working in. If you look at entertainment, it's one of the words used by Disney for the brand mantra. And Disney company is making movies, Disney has park, so Disney has a lot of activities. They have a TV channel, etc. And when they try to figure out what was the actual domain of activity of their company, they came to the word entertainment, because everything they are doing, it's related with entertainment. If you make batteries, if you make wind turbines, the goal of the brand function, the word you will choose to describe your activity, shouldn't be too specific about batteries or wind turbine, because actually what you are working on, the domain you are involved into, is the domain of energy. So energy can be a good descriptor for the brand function describing the domain of activity of your company.